You ever get one of those calls that just sticks with you? The kind that seems normal at first, but later you realize it was a warning. Yeah, that's what this story's about. The first time my son asked me that question, I didn't think much of it. Just a random late-night check-in, one of those, "Hey, Dad, just seeing how you're doing" kind of calls. "Hey, Dad," he said, quiet, hesitant. "Yeah, bud?" I answered, wiping the grease off my hands. I'd been working late in the garage again. Then he asked, "Are you alone?" I laughed. "Well, unless you count the radio and the smell of motor oil, yeah." But he didn't laugh back. Just mumbled something about being busy, said he'd call tomorrow, and hung up. Weird, right? At the time, I brushed it off. My son, David, he's 30, lives a few towns over, works crazy hours. Maybe he was just lonely. Maybe he was bored. But then he called again. Same time, same question. "Hey, Dad, are you alone?" By the third night, it wasn't funny anymore. The way he said it, it didn't sound like small talk. It sounded like a checklist, like he already knew the answer and just needed to make sure. Ever since his mom passed 3 years ago, he hasn't been the same. He got quieter, distant. I figured it was grief. We all carry it different ways, right? But those calls, something about them just felt off. Then one night, around 11:30, I'm watching Columbo reruns, half asleep on the couch. Phone buzzes. "It's David, again." I answer right away. "Hey, Dave." He pauses. "Hey, Dad. You're home alone tonight?" I sigh. "Yeah, kid. Just me in the house." "You okay?" Long silence. I can hear him breathing, slow, uneven. Then he says, "Yeah, just checking." "Checking what?" I ask. Nothing. Just the sound of a door closing somewhere behind him. And then the line goes dead. For a minute, I just sit there, staring at the phone, trying to shake the chill crawling up my back. The house feels different, heavier, like the air itself got thicker. Then I smell it. Gas. Faint but real. The furnace was off. Stove off. I hadn't cooked in days. But that smell, it was there. I opened a window, heart pounding. And that's when it hit me. How long had it been there? That was the first night I realized something was wrong. Not with the house. With my son. The smell lingered long after I cracked open the windows. Gas faint but sharp enough to sting the back of my throat. I went room to room, kitchen, hallway, basement, checking the stove, the heater. The pilot light, nothing, everything was off. I told myself it was probably just the old pipes. This house was built in the 70s. The furnace has seen better days. Still, that thought wouldn't quit nagging me. That night I barely slept. Every creak in the floorboards, every gust of wind outside made me sit up and listen. And then the phone rang again. "Hey, Dad." "David, it's almost midnight." "Yeah, I know." His voice sounded off, quiet, distant. "Are you alone?" There it was again. Same question. Same weird tone that made my stomach twist. "Why do you keep asking me that?" I said. He paused. "No reason, just making sure you're okay." "David, if something's wrong, talk to me." "Nothing, just static, slow breathing." Then click. He hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, heart thudding. For the first time in my life, I felt uneasy about my own kid. Not scared, just uneasy. Next morning, I called the gas company, told them about the smell. The tech came by that afternoon. Young guy, clipboard, friendly smile. He ran his tests, checked every line, every vent. Then he looked up and said, "No leak, sir. Everything's normal." Normal. That word felt wrong. Nothing about this was normal anymore. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. Locked every door, every window, even left a light on in the hallway. I told myself I was just being paranoid. I'd raised David alone after his mom passed. Maybe I was overthinking it. But then 2 nights later, I woke up to a noise coming from the basement. Not loud, just a low metallic clink like someone turning a wrench. At first I figured it was the pipes, until I realized that sound wasn't coming from inside the wall. It was coming from the furnace. I grabbed my flashlight and crept down the stairs. The air felt heavier, colder, And that smell was back again. The furnace door was half open. I crouched, shining the light inside. Nothing looked off until I spotted the screws on the side. Panel, loose, like someone had been inside it recently. My hand shook. I hadn't touched that furnace in months. And then it hit me like ice in my veins. Someone's been in my house. I turned off the light and went back upstairs, locking the basement door behind me. Didn't call the cops. Didn't call anyone. I didn't even know what to say. But when the phone rang again the next night, I already knew who it was, and I knew what he was going to ask. By the third week, I stopped pretending everything was fine. The calls, the gas smell, the basement noises. None of it was coincidence anymore. Something was happening in my house. The weirdest part? No signs of a break-in. No busted locks. No missing tools. Not even footprints in the snow. Just that feeling. The kind you can't explain but can't shake. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I started sleeping in my recliner by the front window. Flashlight on the armrest. Phone in my hand. Old habits die hard. After 30 years as a mechanic, you learn to notice details of what's moved, what's off, what's not where you left it. And that's when I started seeing little things. The back door chain hanging loose, a cup in the sink I never used, the furnace panel half unscrewed again. Till it felt like someone was moving through my house when I wasn't looking. Careful, quiet, almost respectful. But why? That morning I decided to test a theory. Before leaving for work, I sprinkled flour across the back door threshold and down the basement stairs. When I got home that night, the flour was smeared. There were footprints. Men's shoes, big ones, same size as my son's. My hands went cold. I wanted to believe it was nothing. But the proof was right there in white powder. That night I called David. My heart was racing as the phone rang. "Hey, Dad." "David, I gotta ask you something. Have you been coming over here?" He went quiet. "Why would I do that?" "I don't know. Maybe you forgot something. Maybe you just wanted to check on me." "No," he said flatly. "I haven't been there." "David, I found footprints inside the house." He paused, his breathing changed. "Maybe someone broke in, Dad. You should call the cops." "Yeah," I said, staring out into the dark. Maybe I should. After we hung up, the silence in that house was unbearable. No TV, no sound. Just the tick of the clock, and the thought that my own son might be lying to me. A few days later, I talked to Amanda, an old family friend who's also a lawyer. She'd known David since he was little. I told her everything, the calls, the smell, the footprints. She listened quietly, then said, "Mike, this doesn't sound random. If you think someone's been in your house, you need proof." "Proof?" I asked. "Yeah, set up a camera. Motion sensor. Something simple. If it's a stranger, we'll know. And if it's David." She didn't finish. She didn't have to. That night, I bought 2 small security cameras, one for the kitchen, one for the basement. It felt wrong, spying on my own kid. But part of me already knew what I was going to find. And when I checked the footage the next morning, what I saw froze my blood. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I must have replayed the same thought 100 times. What if it really is him? By morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the motion camera app on my phone. Coffee cold, hands shaking. The basement footage had uploaded overnight. I hit play. At first, nothing. Just the still image of my old furnace, and that flickering bulb swinging above it. Hours ticked by and fast forward. Nothing moving but shadows. Then at 2:13 a.m., the frame lit up. A figure stepped into view. Tall, hoodie pulled tight. Moved like he knew the place. He walked straight to the furnace, crouched, and opened the panel like he'd done it 100 times. My heart started pounding, and when he turned toward the light, I saw the face I'd hoped I wouldn't. David, my son. He wasn't stealing anything. He wasn't snooping. He was focused, twisting something with a wrench, checking gauges, moving wires, calm, careful. Then, before he stood up, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal canister, one I didn't recognize. He attached it to a valve near the back of the unit, tightened it, looked around once more, then walked off camera. My coffee cup slipped from my hand, hit the floor. My son had been sneaking into my house at night and tampering with my furnace. Maybe he thought he was helping. Maybe he meant well. But a darker thought whispered, he's not fixing anything. He's setting something up. I called Amanda right away. She answered, half asleep. Mike, what's wrong? I caught him, I said. It's David. He was in the house. She went silent. You're sure? I saw the video. He was messing with the furnace. She sighed. Okay, don't confront him yet. Not until we know what that canister is. Send me the clip. I'll have someone look at it. I sent it right then. By evening, she called back. Her voice was tight. Mike, that wasn't a repair part. It was a regulator, used for gas flow. My stomach twisted. What kind of gas? Propane, she said quietly. If he attached that to your line... Jesus. Exactly. Listen to me, Mike. Don't stay there tonight. I didn't argue. I threw some clothes in a bag and checked into a roadside motel. All night I stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it. This wasn't my boy. Not the kid who used to fix bikes with me in the garage. Something in him had changed. And whatever he was planning, it wasn't over. Because at 11:58 p.m. my phone lit up. David was calling. I answered. Before I could speak, he said, calm, distant, almost hollow, Dad, are you alone? I didn't answer right away. That question, are you alone, hit different now. It wasn't concern. It was a pattern. I sat in the dim motel light, phone pressed to my ear, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear him breathe. David, I said finally, steady but cold, why do you keep asking me that? He paused, just breathing. Then softly, because it matters. What do you mean it matters? You'll understand soon, he whispered, and the line went dead. The room hummed, the heater, the silence, my thoughts all fighting for space. I wanted to believe my son wasn't capable of anything dark. But the video, the gas smell, the late-night calls, it all pointed the same way. Next morning I called Amanda. She picked up on the first ring. Mike, you okay? Barely slept, I said. Good, because I checked something. Your son's financials. You might want to sit down. My stomach tightened. Why? What's going on? He took out a life insurance policy. Under your name, beneficiaries him. Everything inside me froze. That's impossible. I'm afraid it's not. Your signature's forged, Mike. For a second, I couldn't speak. My own son, the kid I'd raised alone after losing his mom, and had forged my name. Amanda's tone softened. Don't panic. It could be desperation, debt, addiction, something. Just don't go home alone. Let me handle this first. But I couldn't wait. I needed to see him face to face. I drove straight to his apartment. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel. When I got there, the place looked abandoned. Mail piled up. Curtains drawn. I knocked. David! It's me. Silence. Then a creak. The door cracked open. He stood there, pale and hollow-eyed, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Dad, he said quietly, you shouldn't be here. I swallowed hard. We need to talk. He rubbed his face, stepped aside. Fine, come in. The air inside was thick, smelled like stale coffee and metal. Papers everywhere, bills, notes, tools, rough sketches of gas lines. Even one of my furnace circled in red pen. What is all this? I asked. He didn't answer. I picked up the sketch. My voice broke. David, what the hell is this? He looked up, eyes red. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. He stepped closer, hands shaking. I was trying to fix it, Dad. You're not safe in that house. Not safe from what? He hesitated, glancing at the window like someone might be listening. Then whispered, they're watching you. My stomach dropped. Who's watching me? He backed up, eyes darting. The same people who took Mom. I froze. David, your mother died in the hospital. From cancer. He shook his head violently. That's what they want you to think. Something inside me cracked. This wasn't about greed anymore. My son wasn't angry. He was terrified. Before I could speak, he grabbed my arm, desperate. Dad, he said, eyes wide, don't go back to that house. Promise me you won't. David, please, let me help you. But he just kept whispering, they're watching. They're watching. I left without another word. And when I looked back through the window, he was standing there, staring after me, like he was guarding me from something I couldn't see. That night I realized this wasn't about money. It wasn't even about sanity. It was something much darker. I drove home that night with both hands gripping the wheel tight, the road blurring under the streetlights. What my son had said, "They're watching you. They took Mom," echoed in my head like a siren I couldn't shut off. Part of me wanted to call the police. The other part, of the father part, still wanted to protect him. When I got home, I didn't go inside right away. I sat in the truck, staring at my front door. The porch light flickered in the wind, and for a moment, I half expected to see him standing there again, that same blank, frightened stare. But the house was empty, still, too still. I checked the cameras again that night. Nothing new. No movement, no sound. Just that uneasy silence that had started to feel like company. By morning, I called Amanda and told her everything. Every word he said. Every look, every strange detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "Mike, I don't think this is just about the insurance. Anymore. What are you saying?" "I think your son's having some kind of breakdown. Paranoia, maybe something more serious. I've seen cases like this before. People lose track of what's real and what isn't." My heart sank. "You think he's sick?" "I think he's scared," she said softly. "And fear like that can make people do dangerous things, and even to the ones they love." That hit hard. Because the truth was, even through all the fear, I still saw my son in there. The boy who used to wait for me in the garage, holding a flashlight while I worked. The one who cried when his mom got sick. He wasn't evil. He was broken. Amanda suggested we call someone. A friend she knew who worked in crisis intervention. "They can't arrest him if he's not violent," she said. "But they can evaluate him, make sure he's safe." I agreed. I didn't want to see him hurt or worse. That afternoon, I drove back to his apartment. His car was in the lot this time, curtains still drawn. I knocked. "David, it's Dad. Please open the door." No answer. "Son, I'm not mad. I just want to talk. I'm worried about you." The lock clicked. The door opened a few inches. His eyes met mine, bloodshot, twitchy, afraid. "You brought them, didn't you?" he whispered. "What?" "You told them where I am. You think I don't see the cars? The people watching?" I stepped closer, trying to stay calm. "David, there's no one out here but me." "I swear." He shook his head. "They're listening. They always are." "Who?" I asked softly. He looked right at me, his voice trembling. "You know." Then he slammed the door. I stood there, fists clenched, heartbreaking. Behind that door wasn't just my son. It was everything I'd failed to see. I called Amanda from the parking lot. "He won't let me in," I said. "He's terrified. I don't know what to do." "Stay there," she said. "I'll call my contact. Just don't push him." I waited in the car for nearly an hour. The sun dipped low behind the buildings, turning the sky a pale orange. Just as I was about to leave, I saw movement. David stepping outside, hood pulled over his head, glancing around like he expected someone to jump him. He crossed the street, fast, head down. I didn't call out. I just watched him disappear into the shadows behind the gas station. I didn't know it yet, but that was the last time I'd see him for 3 days. And when he finally showed up again, he wasn't the same person anymore. 3 days. That's how long my son was gone. No calls, no texts, no late-night questions. Just silence. At first I thought maybe he'd gone somewhere to clear his head. But when Amanda told me his phone was still active, pinging near the old storage yard on the outskirts of town, I knew something was wrong. That place had been abandoned for years. We drove out there late afternoon, the sky low and grey. The yard was a graveyard of rusted trucks, broken trailers and weeds tall enough to hide in. The wind whistled through the chain-link fence, carrying the smell of dust and oil. Amanda parked beside me. "Are you sure this is the spot?" "Yeah," I said quietly, staring at my phone's GPS. "He's here somewhere." We got out, walking slowly through the rows of wrecked metal. Every sound felt too loud, the crunch of gravel, the groan of wind. Then near the back I saw it, his car. It was parked half behind an old trailer, door cracked open, lights off. "David?" I called out, my voice echoing through the empty lot. No answer. I glanced inside the car. It was a mess. Empty bottles, coffee cups, A notebook filled with scribbles and half-drawn diagrams. Words circled over and over again. They're watching. They're everywhere. Save him. Amanda picked up one of the pages. Her eyes widened. Mike, look at this. It was a hand-drawn layout of my house. Every room labeled, every gas line marked. And next to the furnace he'd written, entry point. My stomach twisted. Entry point for what? Amanda whispered. I didn't want to answer. Just then, something clattered behind us, a door slamming against metal. We spun around. David was standing near the trailer, hood up, eyes wide and glassy. David! I called out, taking a step forward. Son, it's me. He froze, breathing fast. You shouldn't have come here, Dad. Why? What's going on? They're already inside the house, he said, voice shaking. You have to understand, I'm trying to stop them. Amanda stepped forward, calm and steady. David, we're not here to hurt you. We just want to talk. But he backed away, clutching something in his hand, a small silver cylinder. My blood ran cold. I recognized it immediately, the same kind of canister I'd seen on the basement camera. David, I said carefully, hands raised. Put that down, please. He looked at me, eyes glistening. You don't get it, Dad. If I don't do this, they'll get you next. I have to make it look real. Make what look real? The accident. The world tilted. Amanda slowly reached for her phone behind her back, whispering, Mike, we need to get out of here. But before she could finish, David turned and ran, straight toward the woods behind the lot. David! I yelled, chasing after him. Of my house again. I stared at the dark windows and thought about the last thing he'd said. They're already inside the house. I didn't know if he was delusional, or if he was telling me the truth. Either way, I wasn't stepping inside until I found him. Branches snapped, gravel scattered under our feet. He was faster than I remembered, desperate, like a man running from his own shadow. We lost him near the ridge. By the time the police showed up, he was gone. His car still there, his notes scattered, the canister left behind. One of the officers, young, nervous, picked it up with gloves and frowned. This thing's modified, he said. Looks like a homemade regulator. Not something you'd buy at a store. Amanda looked at me, her face pale. Mike, if he was trying to make it look like an accident, I didn't let her finish. I already knew. That night, standing in front of my house again, I stared at the dark windows and thought about the last thing he'd said. They're already inside the house. I didn't know if he was delusional, or if he was telling me the truth. Either way, I wasn't stepping inside until I found him. The next morning, I sat in the police station staring at a paper cup of coffee I couldn't bring myself to drink. Detective Harris, a tall guy with tired eyes, sat across from me, flipping through his notes. So let me get this straight, he said. You're saying your son's been sneaking into your house, tampering with your gas line, and he's missing now? I nodded, rubbing my temples. Yes, but he's not. He's not a killer. He's sick. I just don't know with what. The detective sighed. We'll do what we can. But if he's unstable and thinks someone's after him, he could hurt himself, or you. Amanda placed a hand on my shoulder. We just want him found safely. Detective, please. He nodded, gathering the files. We've got units watching his old apartment. Just in case he shows up there. When we left the station, the air outside was cold and brittle. Amanda handed me her phone. Mike, you need to see this. It was footage from a traffic camera near the storage yard, time-stamped early that morning. David's car wasn't there. But a few hours later, someone matching his description was caught on a nearby gas station. Camera, walking fast, carrying a backpack, head down. Looks like he's still in town, Amanda said. I stared at the screen. He's hiding. He's scared. But of what? She hesitated. Or of who? We drove to his apartment later that afternoon. The police had already cleared it for evidence, but they let us in. The place looked even worse in daylight. Stacks of notebooks, empty energy drink cans, post-it notes covering the walls. Every surface was filled with messages, written in black marker and loops of words that didn't make sense. They're in the vents. Keep Dad safe. She told me the truth. Trust no one. Amanda flipped through one of the notebooks, her voice low. This is full-blown paranoia. Maybe schizophrenia. He's seeing patterns where there aren't any. In one notebook, I found a folded photo of him and his mom, my wife, Karen. It was old, edges worn soft. On the back, in his handwriting, were 3 words: "She didn't die." My chest tightened. Amanda looked over my shoulder. "He's convinced her death wasn't real." "She was sick," I whispered. "She fought for 2 years. I watched her fade away in that hospital bed." "I know," Amanda said softly. "But to him, maybe that's too painful to accept. Maybe this is how he's trying to make sense of it." I sank onto the couch, feeling the weight of every mistake I'd made as a father. How many calls had I ignored? How many signs had I brushed off as stress? There was a knock at the door. Detective Harris stepped in, holding a small plastic bag. Inside was something metallic, a USB flash drive. "We found this in the apartment," he said. "You might want to take a look. It's password protected, but our tech guys can crack it." I frowned. "What's on it?" He shrugged. "Could be nothing. Could be everything." When they finally opened it later that evening, the screen filled with dozens of video files, all labeled the same way: Dad's house. My stomach turned. The videos showed hidden camera footage. My kitchen, my living room, my garage, all taken at night. David had been watching me. In one clip, I was asleep in my recliner, while a faint hissing sound played in the background. Another clip showed him standing in my kitchen, whispering something to himself. The videos haunted me. I couldn't stop seeing those shaky, night vision shots of my own house, the flicker of the lamp, the faint hiss of gas, my son's whisper in the dark. He wasn't some stranger breaking in. He was my boy, and scared, delusional, and trying to save me from something that didn't exist. After watching every second of those clips, I finally understood one thing. If I didn't find him soon, I might lose him forever. Detective Harris promised to keep looking, but I couldn't sit still. I knew David better than anyone. The places he used to go when life got heavy. Old fishing spots, abandoned roads, even the small diner his mom loved off Route 19, that's where I went first. The waitress, a kind older woman who'd known our family for years, looked up as I walked in. "Michael, you okay, hon? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Have you seen my son, David?" I asked. She frowned, thinking. "Yesterday morning, maybe. Came in for coffee. Didn't eat. Just sat in the corner talking to himself. Left in a hurry." My throat tightened. "Did he say where he was going?" She shook her head. "No, but he kept glancing out the window. Said something about them waiting. I left a tip and hurried outside, my mind racing. So they smote that word again. Whoever he thought they were, that's who he was fighting in his head." Amanda called while I was driving. "Mike," she said, "they traced his debit card. He bought something at a hardware store this morning. Tubing, gloves, duct tape." I gripped the steering wheel. "He's trying again." Her voice trembled. "We'll find him, Mike, I promise." By late afternoon, the sky had turned dark gray as that eerie, heavy kind of weather before a storm. I stopped at the gas station near the storage yard. That's when I saw it. A backpack, black, torn, leaning against the side of the dumpster. I recognized it instantly. It was David's. Inside were tools, a flashlight, and a note scribbled on a wrinkled receipt. "Dad, I'm sorry. I have to finish what I started. They won't stop until it looks real. Please stay away from the house tonight." My hands started shaking. Stay away from the house. That could only mean one thing, when he was going back there. I called Amanda, panic in my voice. "He's at the house. He's going to try again." "I'm calling the police now," she said. "Don't go in, Mike." But I was already driving. The storm hit just as I reached the street, wind whipping leaves across the road, rain hammering the windshield. My porch light flickered through the blur of water. I pulled up fast and jumped out, sprinting to the front door. The smell hit me before I even opened it. Gas. Thick, heavy, unmistakable. "David!" I yelled, choking on the fumes. "David, where are you?" From somewhere deep in the house, a voice echoed. "Dad? You weren't supposed to come back." "Son, listen to me. You're not saving me, or you're hurting yourself." He stepped out from the hallway, pale, shaking, tears running down his face. In his hands, a lighter. My heart nearly stopped. "David, put it down," I said quietly, raising my hands. "It's okay. You're safe now. No one's watching us. It's just you and me." He looked around like the walls were whispering. "You don't understand, Dad. They said if I didn't make it look like an accident, they'd take you too." "Nobody's going to take me." "Son," I took a slow step closer. "But if you light that, we both die." For a second, his hand trembled. The flame clicked but didn't catch. Tears streamed down his face. "I don't want to lose you again," he whispered. I reached for him, voice breaking. "Then don't, please, son. Come here." He hesitated, just long enough for the front door to burst open. Detective Harris and 2 officers rushed in, shouting. David flinched, startled, the lighter falling to the floor. I grabbed him, pulling him close as the officers shut off the main gas valve. He fought me for a second, sobbing, screaming words that didn't make sense. Then he went limp, crying into my shoulder like a child again. "It's okay, son," I whispered, tears in my eyes. "You're safe. It's over." But deep down I knew it wasn't really over, because this wasn't a crime. It was an illness, and the hardest part was still ahead. When the police took David away, the house fell silent in a way that didn't feel real. Rain still beat against the windows. The smell of gas still hung faintly in the air, and all I could hear was his voice echoing in my head. "They said if I didn't make it look like an accident, they'd take you too." I sat on the porch steps until sunrise, still shaking, watching the flashing lights fade down the street. Amanda stayed beside me, her jacket soaked through, her voice steady. "He's alive, Mike. That's what matters right now." I nodded, but my throat was tight. He looked at me like I was the enemy. "My own kid," she sighed. "He's not seeing you, not really. He's seeing whatever his mind's telling him is true." Inside, Detective Harris and his team moved carefully through the house, shutting off the main gas, taking photos, collecting that small silver canister from the furnace. Every click of the camera felt like another nail in a coffin I didn't want built. Harris came over. "We'll run tests, but it's clear your son modified the regulator. You're lucky it didn't ignite." "Lucky," I muttered. "That's one word for it." He studied me for a moment, softer now. "We'll make sure he gets evaluated before anything else happens. This doesn't look like a criminal job. It looks like someone who's sick." When they finally cleared out, Amanda made me promise not to stay alone. "Come to my place tonight," she said. "Please." But I couldn't leave. I walked through each room, flashlight cutting through the dark. Everything looked normal, and too normal, like nothing had happened. Yet I could feel the weight of what almost did. In the basement, I found the toolbox David used when he was a kid, the same one we built together, scratched. Painted blue, his initials carved into the lid. Inside were his tools, and a folded photograph of us in the garage years ago, both smiling, hands covered in grease. On the back he'd written, "For when they try to make you forget me." I sat on the cold floor, photo shaking in my hands. My son wasn't a monster. He was drowning in something I couldn't see, and I'd been too blind to throw him a rope. Around 3 a.m., the phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Stafford," a calm voice said. "This is Officer Reyes from County General. Your son's being evaluated. He's stable but disoriented. We'd like you to come in the morning." I whispered, "Is he hurt?" "No, sir. Just confused. He keeps asking for you." For a moment I couldn't speak. Then I said, Tell him I'll be there." After the call ended, I sat there in the dark basement, holding that old photograph. The smell of gas was gone, replaced by the scent of rain through the cracked window. For the first time in weeks I didn't feel fear, just heartbreak, because I finally understood what this had always been about. He wasn't trying to kill me. He was trying to save me from a danger that only existed in his mind. And somehow I had to find a way to save him back. Hospitals have their own kind of quiet. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind. The one that hums under the buzz of fluorescent lights and smells like fear mixed with bleach. That's what I walked into the next morning. David was being held for a 72-hour psychiatric evaluation. Observation, the nurse had called it, as if that word made it sound any less terrifying. When I reached the psych ward, a doctor in blue scrubs met me in the hallway. Her name tag said, "Dr. Monroe." "You're David's father?" she asked. "Yes," she nodded gently. "He's resting now. We've started preliminary tests. From what he's been saying and the patterns we've seen, it appears he's dealing with paranoid. Schizophrenia, likely untreated, for several years. Her words hit like a punch I didn't see coming. Years? I repeated, my voice cracking. You mean, this didn't just start? She shook her head. Schizophrenia can develop slowly. He probably masked it for a long time. The delusions, the belief that people were watching you, that his mother was still alive. That's his mind's way of trying to make sense of what he can't process. I leaned against the wall, my chest tight. I thought he was just depressed. After his mom died, Dr. Monroe placed a hand on my arm. You couldn't have known. Most families don't see it until it's too late. That sentence stayed with me. Until it's too late. A nurse appeared and said softly, "He's awake if you'd like to see him." My legs felt like lead as I followed her down the hall. David was sitting up in bed, staring out the small window. His hospital gown hung loose on his thin shoulders. When he turned toward me, his face lit up with a tired smile. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, Bud," I said, pulling a chair up beside him. He looked down at his hands. "I messed up, didn't I?" I swallowed hard. "You scared me." "But you didn't mess up. You just need help." He rubbed his palms together. "I heard things, Dad, voices. They told me you were in danger, that if I didn't act, you'd die. I thought I was saving you." "I know," I said quietly. "But those voices weren't real. They tricked you." He blinked fast, fighting tears. "It felt real. Every sound, every shadow. I thought I was protecting you. Mom used to say I was the brave one." I smiled sadly. "You were. You still are. But you don't have to fight alone anymore." His lip trembled. "Are you mad at me?" My throat tightened. "No, son, not mad. Just sorry. Sorry I didn't see how much you were hurting." He looked away, eyes glistening. "It's quiet now." The voices stopped. "That's good," I said softly.
"They'll come back, though," he whispered. "They always do." I didn't know what to say, so I did the only thing that felt right. I took his hand. For a long time, we sat there in silence, father and son, connected by something deeper than blood, a mix of pain, forgiveness, and fragile hope. When I left the room, Dr. Monroe met me at the door. "We'll start him on medication and therapy," she said. "It's a long road, but with consistency and family support, he can live a stable life." I nodded slowly. He won't face it alone. That night, I went home to a house that felt completely different. The fear was gone, but the silence still had weight. I poured a cup of coffee and sat by the window where it all began. The same question echoed in my mind, his question. Asterisk, "Are you alone, Dad?" Asterisk, "For the first time," I whispered back. "Not anymore." And for the first time in a long time, I actually believed it.
6 months passed, he whispered. Seasons changed, the snow melted, and the house stopped feeling like a crime scene. The gas lines were replaced, the walls repainted, but some parts of that night still lived in me, moments that refused to fade, no matter how much light I let in. David was still at the treatment center, a quiet facility just outside Cleveland. The doctors said he was responding well to the meds, and therapy had become part of his daily rhythm. Some days he was fully there, clear-eyed and calm. Other days, he drifted. But it was progress, and after everything that had happened, progress felt like a kind of miracle. Every Sunday I visited him. We'd sit by the garden out back, rows of small flowers he'd started tending as part of his therapy. He said it helped him hear the quiet. One afternoon, he handed me a small wooden box. "I made this in art class," he said with a faint smile. "For you." I opened it. Inside was a photo of us, the same one I'd found months earlier in his toolbox. Only this time he'd written something new on the back. "Thanks for not giving up on me." My throat tightened. I smiled, blinking back tears. "I never will, son." We talked about simple things, the weather, the Cavs game, how his garden was surviving the late frost. For the first time, his laughter didn't sound forced. It was real. When visiting hours ended, I walked back to my truck, that box clutched in my hand. Amanda had told me once, healing doesn't look like fixing, it looks like showing up. And she was right. I couldn't fix what happened, but I could keep showing up. That night I went home to the same old house, the one that used to scare me. Now it just felt honest, like every creak in the floor and flicker of the light was proof we'd both survived, something that could have destroyed us. I sat down in my recliner, the same spot I'd been in when it all started, and turned on the old radio. Sinatra played softly, the way it used to when my wife was still alive. For a long time I just listened. I thought about how thin the line is between love and fear, how easily they blur when you're trying to protect the people you care about. David's illness had taken so much from us, trust, time, peace. But it had also given us something fragile and precious, the chance to start over. When my phone buzzed later that night, I didn't hesitate to answer. "Hey, Dad," David said. His voice sounded steadier, softer. "Hey, bud. How are you feeling?" "Better," he said. "The meds help, and I think I understand now. What's real, what's not?" I smiled. "That's good, son. That's really good." There was a pause, and then quietly he said it. "Are you alone?" This time I laughed. "No, kid. Not anymore." He chuckled too, and for the first time in a long time, the question didn't carry fear. It carried love. When the call ended, I sat there a while longer, letting the quiet fill the room. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels earned. Because sometimes the hardest truths don't break us. They rebuild us, piece by piece. It's strange how forgiveness works. You think it's about saying the words, but it's not. It's about letting go of what you can't carry anymore. The anger, the guilt, the endless what-ifs. A year had passed since that night. The house was quieter now, not in the eerie way it used to be, but in a way that finally felt calm. The kind of silence that doesn't echo, it breathes. David had been released from the treatment center 2 months earlier. He was living in a small supervised apartment just a few miles from me, working part-time at an auto shop, the same trade I'd taught him years ago. His doctor said keeping a routine helped, and working with his hands grounded him. When I stopped by one afternoon, he was bent over an old carburetor, grease on his fingers, focus in his eyes. "Looks like you still remember how to do that," I said with a grin. He smiled faintly. "Guess I had a good teacher." For a moment everything felt normal, father and son side by side fixing things. Only this time the thing we were fixing wasn't metal, it was us. We sat outside afterward, the air warm and full of the smell of motor oil and summer dust. "Dad," he said quietly, "do you ever think about that night?" I hesitated. "So yeah, I think about it a lot. Do you hate me for it?" The question hung between us, heavy. I took a long breath. "No, son. I could never hate you. I hated the sickness that made you believe you had to hurt me to save me. But you're my boy. You always will be." He looked down, blinking fast, and then nodded. "I still hear them sometimes. The voices. But I know they're not real now. I tell them to leave me alone, and most days, they do." "That's all you can do, bud," I said softly. "One day at a time." He nodded again, then smiled. "Thanks for not walking away." I looked at him, really looked at him. He was still the same kid I'd raised, just older, scarred, and somehow stronger. "Walking away's never been my thing," I said with a small laugh. "Especially when it comes to you." He smiled, and a real one this time. And for the first time in years I saw peace in his eyes. The truth that saved us. A few weeks later I drove to the cemetery. The air was cool, the sky pale blue, and the trees were just starting to turn. I hadn't been there in a long time. Not since before everything happened. I stood by Karen's grave, hands in my pockets, staring down at her name carved in stone. For a while I couldn't speak. I just let the wind do the talking. Finally I said, "We almost lost him, Karen, but he's getting better. He's fighting his way back." A small smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. "You'd be proud of him. You always said he had your heart, stubborn and soft all at once." The wind moved through the trees like an answer. I closed my eyes, remembering the way she used to hum in the kitchen, the way David would run to her when he was scared. I realized then that maybe healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about remembering differently. When I left the cemetery, I drove past the diner we used to take David to as a kid. The sign was faded, but the smell of coffee and fresh pie still spilled out through the doors. I went inside, sat at the same booth, and for the first time in a long time I didn't sit alone. My phone buzzed, a text from David. "Hey Dad, just checking in." "You alone?" I smiled. My chest tightened, but this time it wasn't fear. It was love. "No, kid," I typed back. "Not anymore." Outside, the sun dipped low, painting the world gold and soft. I took a sip of my coffee and thought about everything we'd survived. The lies, the fear, the sickness, the silence. The truth hadn't just saved my life. It had saved my son's. And maybe, in some small way, it saved us both. Because sometimes the people who hurt us the most aren't villains. They're just lost, waiting for someone to find them. And sometimes, the only way to save them is to stay. The end. Sometimes the people we fear are the ones who need us the most. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It rewrites what it means. Michael didn't just save his son's life that night. He saved his own, because the truth is, no matter how painful, is always worth facing. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and join us here on Hidden Truths, True Stories, where every week we share real lives, real pain, and the hidden truths that connect us all. Until next time, remember, sometimes the hardest stories to tell are the ones that heal us the most.